Today we'll talk about how to balance your diet to reduce sugar cravings. Usually people try to just cut out sugar and it doesn't work because sugar is very addicting. This is a much easier and more natural organic approach. If you follow this, you'll see that your sugar cravings reduce on their own. So there's especially two groups of foods that we need to keep eating a decent amount of every day. And when we do, the body is very nourished and we naturally lose the taste to have all this sugar. So one is protein, enough lean protein in your diet. If you're not vegetarian, go with a lot of fish that's baked or lightly sauteed, but not fried, breaded and fried, just very simple. And best is fish from the Pacific Northwest because it doesn't have all the chemicals in the water that we have in the Atlantic Ocean and other places. And then pastured chicken would be good too. Eggs. If you're vegetarian, go a lot with whole grains and beans. Also, basmati rice is good. But those proteins by themselves are very important because when we have enough protein, our tendency to want something sweet at the end of a meal is greatly reduced. Sprouts are also good. Excuse me. And sprouts fit into two groups. They fit into this protein group because they have a decent amount of protein. And they also fit into the other group, which we need a lot of, which is the vegetable group. So for vegetables, we need to include a lot of cooked vegetables as well as some raw vegetables. If raw food is hard for you to digest, have a minimum of raw and mostly go with cooked. But the cooked are important anyway because when we cook vegetables, they shrink down and we could eat a lot more of a cooked vegetable than raw. For instance, spinach. You couldn't take a whole bag of spinach and put it in a salad and eat the whole thing at once. But if you lightly sauteed it and let it wilt down, you'd see that it kind of shrunk to next to nothing. And it would be a lot easier to eat a bigger portion of that. So we especially need a lot of cooked green vegetables. Green is the middle of the color spectrum. It's very nourishing and balancing for our system. So that would include leafy greens, not just your salad greens, but kale, collard, Swiss chard, spinach, turnip greens, dandelion greens, mustard greens, and then other green vegetables like green beans and cabbage and Brussels sprouts and like that. Then lots of carotene-rich vegetables, which are orange and yellow in color. So things like carrots and winter squash, summer squash, and also deep colored vegetables like beets, red cabbage, are loaded with nutrients as well as lots of fiber. Then the sprouts, which I mentioned, lots of salads. Put in whatever appeals to you in your salads. Preferably make your own dressing. And if you have a juicer or a NutriBullet or a blender, you could blend up your soups. You could make juices, vegetable juices, or you can make a soup and blend it with an immersion blender. You don't need much equipment at all. And that way you're getting lots of vitamins and minerals in your system, lots of protein. It doesn't leave very much room in your stomach to have a lot of sweets or chips if you like chips, which Chinese medicine would say is the same thing as sugar. Because corn, for example, potatoes are very high in sugars. So keep adding those nutrient-dense foods to your diet, the proteins and the veggies, along with other nutrient-dense foods like nuts and seeds and fruits. And you'll see that this craving that you had for the sweet things might become a thing of the past or something that you just think of to have once in a while.